All right, Blue Spectacles, this is not Blue Spectacles beer reviews. This is Dwight's movie reviews. We do a quick little movie review here of a movie with Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone, which is from the early '90s. It's a movie called Basic Instinct, and I think I'd like to do Basic Instinct 2 at some point also. Um, this movie is almost like your typical um, crime thriller movie. Like where there's a murder and then detectives go and try to figure out who's the culprits and uncover other unsavory things. It's kind of typical in that way, but it's atypical um, in that of who the supposed killer is. Um, about this woman who is Sharon Stone, who supposedly has sex with a man and then kills him in the middle of it, and that's an interesting concept. Um, so Michael Douglas is the detective, and he um, and after a woman has sex with the man and kills him in the middle of it, um, he's going to try to figure out the culprit of this murder, and I can't remember the lady's name again, the name and the character's name, but Sharon Stone is the woman who he's going to question because she wrote a book that's very similar to that whole thing of where um, the woman has sex with a man and then kills him in the middle of it. That's very it's very parallel to the book that she wrote apparently, um, and you can tell that in the movie also that there's a sort of a psychologist who works for the police department who I guess talks to the policeman and tries to um, I'm trying to put this into words, who tries to make sure that they're fit for the work that they do, that they're not too troubled for the sort of thing. He has had a relationship with her that which is currently off, um, and does go back on during the movie. And I don't want to discuss the whole movie, um, but basically throughout this whole thing, um, you know, when they take her down to the station to interview Sharon Stone, um, she kind of does some certain things to skirt questions and stuff like that. Um, but I mean, it's almost like in a way that um, doesn't really incriminate her. I mean, um, and she kind of comes to make a point that um, why would I be why would I be um, committing a crime after a book that I wrote that would um, be very stupid because then I would be incriminated by the book that I wrote and it wouldn't be sensible. So she kind of uses that as her alibi, while also that could be sort of a way of covering up the fact that she did write the book because she likes the idea of it and then does it in real life. So Michael Douglas comes to have some sort of a relationship with Sharon Stone, and she's writing another book which has to do with a detective, which is similar to Michael Douglas. And at the beginning of the movie, Michael Douglas is sober, doesn't smoke cigarettes. He's very sober, whereas in other times he wasn't. Um, he starts to go downhill from that because this woman is sort of twisting his mind. It's sort of like making his brains into mush, and apparently he does end up having sex with her, and it ends up being like the biggest and best kind of lay he's ever had. So he tries to keep that, even though once she finishes the book, she's no longer interested in him. Um, so you have a very interesting plot here. and this movie is very famous, and it's very well. It's very renowned for being one of the top crime thrillers. I mean, or crime movies. So I think it's. I don't want to go into the full detail of the movie. You also have this previous love of his life, who's the psychologist lady. There comes to be um, some sort of issue as to where the psychologist lady and Sharon Stone went to the same school, and apparently she copied the Sharon Stone character, and apparently is somewhat still doing that to this day. But and then there's a lot of discrepancies and as to whether that's true, and something big happens as a result. So I don't want to give away any spoilers. So I will go into my ratings of 1 through 5 based upon the plot, the plot, the acting, and the what you're seeing. I guess the the visual aspect of the movie. First of all, the plot I think is fantastic. So I think this should be a 5, just because it the whole thing about. I mean, this is like I said, this is typical because of your typical crime drama or crime thriller, because something happens and a detective goes to figure it out and finds something unsavory, or something very different happens thereafter. And in this one, he didn't really find something unsavory. He ends up befriending and having sex with the suspect, which is very interesting, I think. Um, so the plot is really fantastic. Um, so I think that should have a 5, a 5 out of 5. So that's for the acting. You obviously have you obviously have actors from the big leagues, A list actors, at least at the time. You have Michael Douglas and you have Sharon Stone. Sharon Stone was really hot, by the way, in this movie. um, Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone are awesome actors, and the acting throughout this whole thing is just really really good. It's a classic '90s crime movie. Um, and as for what you're seeing, the whole set and everything, the whole like what you're seeing during the whole relationship between Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone, it really is cool. Plus, she lives in this really big mansion. She has a ton of money, overlooking the ocean. So everything you're seeing it is very appealing. I would say. So I think for acting is also a 5, and um, as is the visual aspect. So in my opinion, this movie should get a 5 out of 5 total. Um, it is going to be added to my gold list of movies, which eventually I will read off the ones which I've gold listed that I have reviewed. Let me know what you think of Basic Instinct, and if you think Basic Instinct 2 is any good, which I do plan on watching once it comes on Hulu or Netflix. And thank you very much for watching.